Hello and welcome back to our charge jump tutorial. In the previous two episodes we managed to get our charge jump working and we've got now a little progress bar on the screen. But what I want to do in this video is showcase to you how we can make that progress bar look a little bit better by using a few different techniques. So let's jump in straight away and take a look at how we build our progress bar to make it look pretty. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to design it like individual bars. So what I've got here is Photoshop open. And I've just made a very simple artboard here that is, I think it's 32 by 128, I think it was. And all I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to do a simple bar shape, right? That I want to use sort of like Mega Man sort of bars, you see. So we're just going to go into our square tool here. And obviously you don't have to use Photoshop. You can use whatever tool you want. I'm going to change the radius there to 8. And bring that down like so. Okay, so I'm going to make it sure it's got a little bit of a gap. And I'm just going to bring that into the center like so. And what I'm going to do as well is make sure that we've got a transparent background from our artboard. So if you don't know how to do that in Photoshop, just click on the artboard in your layers option and you'll see the properties come up. You can change the background here to transparent. Now, what's important about our shape here is that we make this shape white. Now, I didn't make it white, I should have done, but an easy way of doing that is to go into your blending options in Photoshop. And inside these options, you can go to color overlay and just overlay it with white, and it'll just do it for you. But that'll do. We're going to export that as a PNG. And we'll put that onto my desktop. We want to go this one. And we'll call this one loading bar. We'll call it T loading bar segment. Okay, and hit save. With that done, I'm going to go now into my Unreal Engine. And we're going to import that image in to our game. So let's go back to my desktop. T loading bar segment. And there it is. Now the way this is going to work is we're going to make a texture into the material. So I'm going to right click on this one, go create material, and open this up. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to duplicate the bars across multiple times. So first thing you need to do is change our material here to use the user interface domain. So just click on our main brown output node here and go to material domain and change it from surface to user interface. Now plug that into the final color. And we also want to make it masked as well. So we go to masked and use the alpha for the opacity mask. And there we go. So I can see one problem already in that Photoshop didn't export it correctly. So let's go back into that. Quick export. In fact, let's not do quick export. Let's just do a normal export. And I want to make sure it's exporting the whole artboard, which it's doing. Good. Export that. And I'm just going to put it and replace the existing one. Go back to my Unreal. And right click and re-import a texture in. Okay, maybe it is correct. So let's just double click on it and have a look. Oh no, it is correct. Fine. So as I say, we want to duplicate this across. So we're going to use the UV node in texture coordinates to manipulate this. So you go to U tiling and you can increase how many tiles you're going to have. So I've put in 10, for example. We're going to get 10 bars. Put in 100. We get 100 bars. Okay, and that's what we'll be trying to do here. So I'm going to not make it 10 or 100, I'll make it 20. Actually, no, let's go back to 10. Let's keep it simple for demonstration purposes. Hit apply and save. Okay, so now we go back to our progress bar. I'm going to go up to our style settings and I'm going to go to my background image and I'll choose that graphic. So the material into there. I then want to go into my fill image and put it into there as well. So at first it may look a bit weird, and that's just because it's set to draw as box. So just change that draw as to image and this one to image. You can see oh, the fill image we need to set there too. There we go. And we can now see our bars appearing. We should have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Okay. And there we have our bars. However, what we don't want to do is have it half filled or things like that, because if I leave it as it is, we will get that appearance of it half filling like this. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to round up and down the value. So if I go to the graph and we get the float value here, I want to round it to the nearest step. So we've got 10 of these bars. So what I need first of all do is multiply our float value going into our percent here by 10. I then need to round it. And then I'm going to take this round value, and this is integer. So I want to first of all convert this to a float again. So we're going to go to float and then divide that by 10. So now the integer gets rounded down to a decimal point again. So let's go, for example, we have a value of 6.3. Sorry, 0.63. 0.63 is the value coming out of here. We multiply that by 10, it becomes 6.3. Rounding it down becomes 6. Divide that by 10 becomes 0.6. So now if I plug that back into my percent, what we've done is we've taken our decimal values and stepped them into 0.1 intervals. So we get that bar going up like that. And same thing done for health if you want to do it that way for health too. But it's a very easy way of putting together a little jumpy little progress bar like that. Obviously the colors of it are a bit meh, so let's look at how we can improve this further. So I'm going to go back to my jump bar progress bar. I'm first of all give this a little wrapper around it, make it look stand out a little bit. So I'm going to go to border, and then I'll wrap my progress bar with the border. And with the border selected, I'm going to make it sort of rounded, because we've got like a rounded edge going to our progress bar. I want it to match that. So I'm going to go to the appearance, go to brush, and I'm going to change the draw as here to rounded box. Now by default, it's going to look like this. And that's because you have to go to the outline settings, and you'll see in here its default rounding type is half height radius, which basically just takes the half height and just says make this bit the rounded corner. And so you get bars that look like this, like capsule shapes, which we don't want. We just want rounded corners to this thing. So I'm going to change that drop down to fixed radius, and now it's going to use this corner radii. And now I can put in whatever value I want in here. So let's put in 8 by 8 by 8 by 8. Now it's going to look a bit not great because we can't really see it because this is set to fill screen. So let me just change that to custom on screen. And let's change the width down to 600. Okay. And we'll probably go back down a little bit more. 400, 300. Something like that. And we can now see that curvature going on in here. So let's just sort out our border here. So the big thing you'll notice with borders is that you first of all come in with a default padding of 4 and 2. So I'm just going to change the padding values on the right hand side for the border to be an even number. So I'm going to go to 4. Okay, and it's going to pad out the top and the sides evenly. Okay, in fact, let's just make the thing, the progress bar 100%, so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so back on my border, I'm going to add an outline around it. So I'm going to go to the outline, I'm going to change the color of it to white and the alpha up to 1. Now we're not going to see anything different yet. We'll put in the width of, I don't know, 3. You may see some slight difference, but nothing major. The main difference is going to come from when we change the background of our border. So let's go to the brush color. There it is. And if I change it here, you'll see that background is now changing. We've still got that white outline going around the edges there. So let's pick a half decent muted color. I'm going to we'll go for like a darky sort of green. Actually, I'll go for more blue design, like that. Okay. hit compile. And this custom sizing is pretty useful, as you can see how it's going to look at different sort of times. We can do a height of like 50. You can see how it's going to look there. And you can see where it's going to be stretching the image here. It's all a matter of like getting that right first time. So think about to what your original dimensions were for the image in Photoshop. So ours was 128 by 32. So the width 32 times 10 is 320. And the height is 128. Okay, so that matches what I did in Photoshop now. Okay. So let's go back to my player HUD. We see it down there now. And we'll make it match the same sizing. So 320 by 128. And it'll still keep that same, so long as you've got that same sort of aspect ratio and dimensions. You can also make it bigger or smaller too. So if I wanted to halve the height, I'd do 64. I can also halve the size X here by 320 down to 160. And it'll keep me having that same dimensions I've got set up. So whatever the original image is important if you want to keep it looking exactly the way you want it to in Photoshop. So now we've got this meter looking a bit better now, like so. Cool. Next, let's go back to our jump meter now, and let's add another bit of effect to it. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow around the edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our border. Oh, I'm going to wrap that with a overlay. Where are we? Overlay. And let's set the main border we got here to fill the whole space. So let's fill up the whole space there. And in the overlay, we're going to put in another border. Or image, you can do it with an image as well, I guess. And this one's going to fill up the whole space. But this one we're going to make dark. Okay, so we're going to brush color. We'll go down to black and change it to 0.5. Okay. Now also I want this to be behind the object. But also I want it to match the same shape as it. So I'm going to go to my border, the first border. And I'm going to take the same settings for the brush. So I'm going to copy that. Go to the other border. Paste that there. And let's change that tint. Actually, let's get rid of the outline. We don't need the outline, do we? 0. There you go. And I want it now to be behind the first border. So I'm going to drag it to the top of my hierarchy. Now, obviously, we can't see it, so we've got to do is offset it. So if you scroll down, you'll find in here the render transform. And if I expand this open, I can translate it out a little bit. So I'm going to do like 5, 5. And we've got now the little border. And let me just get rid of, there's still a outline showing. I'm just going to get rid of that outline. So corner radius, we won't keep the outline here. We'll bring that down to nothing there. It's still showing. Hopefully it won't show in the game. Yep, that's looking better. Cool. Next is I want to take the loading bar and I want it to change the color of it. So I'm actually going to make a custom color and lerp it between those two values. So we're going to do a lerp and gradiate it with the final color. It's going to go between two colors. We're going to go from, let's say, a green to a red-ish color. That'd be our lerps going into there. Okay, but the alpha is going to be the coordinate space between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And what I can do with that is I can take this another texture coordinate node, plug that into the alpha, and change the U tiling back down to just 1. And now we get a nice gradient between the two. And the reason that works is because a UV coordinate still goes between 0 and 1 in a gradual gradient. So this would work just fine. And again, we can step it too, because we've still got blending of colors going in between what's going on over here. So we can still blend with a step. So it's exactly the same method we did with the other parts of the bar. So we take our texture coordinate. We just want to take the U coordinate of this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to mask the component. And we just want the U, so it'd be the R, so turn off G. We're going to multiply that by 10. And then we're going to round and then divide by 10. So exactly the same as we did in the other one. I put that back into the alpha, and we can kind of see how it's working. So you can see how it's now, it's in between them. So maybe not round, we can use instead, it's going to be ceiling. But that forces it just to round up. There we go, that's looking a lot better. So every one of these bars is a solid color. So apply that, save that, go back to my jump meter. That's going to still look weird, and that's because we've got the progress bar blending blue into it. Just change it down to white, and it will use the exact same colors that we decided in our material. Okay, so now the bar is getting there. So the bit that we can't see is because the background. So the background on the jump meter of the progress bar is exactly the same as the foreground now, but the tint is still white. Okay, so I'm going to tint the background down, and you can see how we can tint that down. By the way, if you notice here the opacity doesn't work, the reason why the opacity doesn't work as you would hope it to is because on our material we need to make sure we're not using opacity mask, we're using opacity and turning that down to be translucent. Now it will accept individual values to shade it in and shade it out. And if I wanted to, I can just hide it completely as well. Right, we've got that ability to do so. But I'm going to leave it like that. There we go. Looking quite nice there with our little jump bar. Okay. So when you're thinking about UI, it's not just a matter of just changing the settings inside the widget. It's also a matter of making use of the material editor and what you can actually achieve with it. And we can keep on going and make it look a bit more fancy. So for example, I could probably overlay this. I probably would overlay this with a linear gradient. And we'll just use the V gradient here, multiply that by a final output. And you get that sort of gradient effect, but I'll soften it. So take that V gradient there and multiply that by, let's say, 3. Yeah, it'll look less crazy. And if you want to make it other way around, do -3. Oh, sorry, not -3. We have to do one minus it first. 1 minus, then multiply by 3. There you go. Apply that. And our bar is slowly coming together quite nicely. And there you have it. One jump with a charge meter, stylized with some materials. So there you go. Hopefully you've learned a lot from creating our own custom jump bar, but there's lots of flexibility what you can do with it. And by all means, experiment. That's how you learn, by experimenting with this stuff. Now, if you've liked this video and want to see more content, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Laley, where you can find lots of more content from just $1 a month early before anyone else. And if you particularly like this series, let us know in the comment below, what have you learned from it? You know, let us know what you've learned, what your big takeaway is, and how you can use it going forwards. And if you have any suggestions for other content you want to see, leave a comment as well. So once again, thank you so much to all the patrons for supporting the channel, as well as all the YouTube members. If you're watching this and you're not yet subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe. It really does help a lot. We do live streams and tutorials every single week. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.